The fifth window here captures the task of translation from early medieval to modern times, and also provides us with something of its worldwide distribution. The top section here commemorates the earliest attempts at translation into English, dating to the time of Bede in the 8th century. The miniature at the top shows Bede at work at the monastery of Jarrow in Northumbria, where he died in 1735. He had made partial translations, none of which survive. The bottom part of our window here shows Westminster Abbey, where in 1870, members of the New Testament Revision Committee met. Great work was done at Cambridge by the trio of Westcott, Lightfoot, and Hort. They worked for 11 years, completing the task in 1881 and seeing it published in 1882. An Old Testament committee began its work in 1870, but their work was not published until 1885. Names of committee mentioned on the window represent the best in biblical scholarship in England, Scotland, Ireland, and America at the time. And this is evident at the bottom left of the panel. Other versions mentioned on the top right include Weymouth, who was a schoolteacher in England who worked on the New Testament. He wanted to determine the exact meaning of every passage, how it could be expressed accurately and naturally in the English of the day, and to provide a clear commentary. So he sought a translation that was modern and free in its language. The result of his work was the New Testament in modern speech, completed in 1903. It went through several editions. Also included here is notice of the work of the Scottish theologian James Moffatt. He provided a version that was widely used, the New Testament in 1913 and the Old Testament in 1924, and the whole Bible published in 1935. The American translation of the Old Testament under the editorship of Powis Smith was published in 1927. Also here is E.J. Goodspeed of the University of Chicago, who published the New Testament in 1923. The continued work, entitled The Bible and American Translation, appeared in 1931. The middle section of our panel here shows the Gospel of John at the center. The date has changed from the 8th century to the 19th, and the location has changed from England to North America. In 1804, the year of its foundation, the British and Foreign Bible Society made its first grant for the translation of the scriptures into a non-English language. 2,000 copies of the version of John's Gospel in Mohawk-English were printed. It was the work of John Norton, a chief of the Six Nations. The chief missionaries to those peoples were the Reverend John Stewart, the first resident clergyman of the Church of England in Upper Canada, and Joseph Brant, a chief and Christian convert. Stewart and Brant were associated with the translation of Scripture into the Mohawk language. This panel here is dedicated to Robert Benjamin McElleran, rector of St. Matthew's Church, Winnipeg, and the third principal of Wycliffe College from 1930 to 1939.